The concept of the sovereign self begins with the recognition that each man carries within him a kingdom that can either be ruled with clarity, discipline, and vision, or squandered under the tyranny of impulses, distractions, and desires that drain his life force. Semen retention is not merely a physical practice. It is the foundational discipline that grants a man sovereignty over his inner world. Imagine your body as a fortress and your mind as the throne room. When your energy leaks without purpose, the walls weaken, invaders storm in, and chaos rules. Retention is the act of fortifying your inner kingdom, guarding its gates, and reclaiming the throne that may have been abandoned to fleeting pleasures. Logic teaches us that energy is finite. What is wasted cannot be reclaimed in its original form. If a man spends his energy recklessly, his vitality diminishes, his focus weakens, and his willpower erodes. But if that energy is consciously preserved, it can be transmuted into strength, creativity, leadership, and spiritual depth. The sovereignty of self emerges from this exact principle. The king is strongest when his treasury is full, not empty. History and philosophy show us that every man who has left a mark on the world mastered his impulses. Kings, warriors, sages, and thinkers understood that ruling others began with ruling the self. A king who cannot control his appetites cannot command his court, his army, or his people. In the same way, a man who cannot control his desires cannot command his destiny. Semen retention provides the ground for this mastery, because it is the most direct confrontation with the strongest biological urge, reproduction. By choosing discipline over indulgence, a man demonstrates to himself that he is capable of ruling the deepest instincts within him. This logical act of self-control creates ripple effects. If he can govern his sexual energy, he can govern his thoughts, habits, and decisions. The sovereignty of the self is not about domination over others. It is about establishing such inner strength that no external influence, temptation, or distraction can dethrone him. A sovereign man does not need validation, because his confidence comes from the well of energy and discipline within. From a psychological perspective, semen retention rewires the relationship between desire, reward, and fulfillment. Modern science shows that the constant release of dopamine from instant gratification, be it through pornography, casual indulgence, or unrestrained release erodes the brain's ability to find satisfaction in meaningful pursuits. Over time, men become less motivated, more anxious, and less grounded. Semen retention acts as a logical reset. By denying the brain its easiest source of dopamine, the man reconditions himself to pursue higher forms of reward. Suddenly, reading, learning, exercising, building, or creating become sources of pleasure again. This shift restores sovereignty over the mind by teaching it to thrive on discipline rather than indulgence. Furthermore, women in society respond to this shift in subtle ways. A man on retention radiates a presence that others instinctively trust. He is no longer restless or needy, but calm and commanding. This calmness is logical proof of sovereignty. It is the difference between a king ruling from his throne with quiet confidence and a pretender chasing approval from the crowd. Spiritual traditions also reinforce this principle. In Buddhist, Hindu, and Taoist teachings, semen retention has long been considered a practice of preserving ojas, or life essence. To reclaim sovereignty is to recognize that the body is not a cage, but a temple, and the seed within is sacred fuel for consciousness. Logic bridges this spirituality with biology. Semen contains not only genetic material, but also vital nutrients, hormones, and energy that the body invests heavily in creating. To waste it casually is to discard treasure without thought. To retain it consciously is to conserve a reservoir of life force that can be redirected toward meditation, prayer, creativity, and spiritual insight. This does not mean celibacy for all, but rather mastery of energy for higher purposes. The sovereign self knows when and how to spend his energy. Just as a wise king knows when to open his treasury for war or for building prosperity, this discernment choosing long-term power over short-term pleasure is what makes semen retention a cornerstone of true sovereignty. The logic of sovereignty extends further into daily life. A man who practices semen retention naturally develops discipline in other areas. His mornings become purposeful, his routines structured, his goals sharpened. He wastes less time because his mind is no longer clouded by cravings or guilt. He eats better because he recognizes his body as part of the kingdom he rules. He trains harder because he feels his strength as a reflection of his inner vitality. This cascading discipline spills into his work, relationships, and leadership. People begin to sense that he has an unshakable core, that he is grounded and possessed. This is sovereignty in action, not needing to speak loudly, not needing to chase validation, but allowing presence itself to communicate authority. Men who lack this discipline are often restless, reactive, and dependent on circumstances. Their inner throne is empty, and anyone's society, habits, or impulses can occupy it. Semen retention fills that throne again, reminding the man that he is both king and guardian of his inner world. Finally, reclaiming the sovereign self through semen retention is not about repression, but about redirection. A king does not destroy his treasury to prove he has power. He guards it, invests it, and spends it wisely. Likewise, semen retention is not about denying sexuality, it is about mastering it, transforming it, and channeling it into greatness. Logic dictates that energy conserved and directed becomes potential realized. Man on retention writes his own destiny with clarity, discipline, and focus, because he is not swayed by impulses, but guided by purpose. He is no longer a servant to cravings. He is a sovereign over his kingdom. His presence commands respect, not because he demands it, but because it radiates naturally from his stability. His energy fuels vision, his discipline inspires others, and his sovereignty becomes a beacon. The inner kingdom, once lost to distractions, is reclaimed, and with it comes vitality, wisdom, and peace. This is the true power of semen retention, the restoration of sovereignty, the reclaiming of the throne, and the awakening of the sovereign self. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your location in the comments. I love to know where you're rewatching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description. This is a series of introspective and philosophical about semen retention. So to watch the next video, coming soon, The Living Nexus. Conserving your creative essence.